It's Christmas here on Talking Away, and it's an Alan Partridge Christmas. Hang on, that's no good.
Keep it in.
Should we just keep that in? Keep it in. We'll keep it in. Well, it definitely makes the show feel more live, doesn't it, when something like that happens? Dear,
Not a great start.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, by the way, gentlemen. Merry Christmas. I should say, I guess, knowing me, Gregory Haynes, knowing Yule, Phil Lennon, aha. Aha. Knowing me, Gregory Haynes, knowing Yule, Andrew Cairns, aha. Aha. That was a good one. So are we ready then for our Christmas special, completely unscripted, in case you hadn't already guessed by now, best chat in town?
It's good to be back, isn't it?
We've also got the jazz horn. I quite like that one.
I have to say, that's fantastic.
Now, we were going to play some Christmas songs into this, weren't we? But we don't have copyright. However, we have managed to obtain, haven't we, the start of one famous Christmas special.
So we could afford.
The question is,
Can anyone guess what song it is?
Budgets are tight. Do you want to have a listen to that again?
Yeah, in case I didn't catch it first time.
Do you think Roy Wood really wishes it's Christmas every day?
I know it's topical to talk about the cost of living crisis, but I'm not sure we might get that in there.
He clearly wishes it's Christmas because of the bloody royalties he gets from it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just
keeps him going.
Just like Holder does with his. But would you really wish it was Christmas every day? Really? It would take away the novelty, wouldn't it?
I suppose it depends what you do at Christmas. Like, if you get presents every day, that sounds great.
Lennon, this is why we brought you into the show.
It's got quite deep already, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, if we just go back a month to our previous episode, which was recorded, it's almost as though we've been out for lunch and just come back in and pretended it's Christmas. But if we just go back to that, we talked about Bill Carr, didn't we? Can you just...
I can't remember because it was so long ago.
Lots happened in a month.
Who would have imagined... We're going to have to record separate versions of this, aren't we, to, cater for anything that could have happened. Oh, those ambulance driver strikes, Andrew, were terrible, weren't they, back in early December?
Yeah.
What else might have happened? And who would have imagined...
England may or may not win the World Cup.
Oh, yeah. First time since 66.
They were just so brilliant and all terrible.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And whoever would have imagined a tornado would come through Birmingham?
No.
I know, it's incredible. Anyway,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, yeah. Merry Christmas, everyone. We're back here in Stockport, and it's a Partridge Christmas special. Now, Andrew, Christmas... a happy time, but also a sad time, particularly for Alan Partridge, I'm afraid. Back in 95, I think it was.
When Knowing Yule was that when it aired? No, 1995.
I think it was the 29th of December, 95. We checked it the other day, and I think it was 95.
Knowing Yule takes us from when Alan has just sort of lost his first series, but not quite. It's very much in limbo land, depending on how Knowing Yule goes, isn't it? So Forbes McAllister has been shot live on air, hasn't he? For the famous line, "Be careful with that," and then Alan didn't realise it was loaded.
But at least Alan was the first to express his condolences.
Another favourite line, "Knowing me, Alan Partridge, knowing you, the police, aha." Was another classic line.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of the show. What's left of it, officers?
If you've read, I can't remember if it's in I, Partridge or Nomad, but in one of the books he talks about how his stay in that police station, he had the best meal in his entire life, which I think was chicken nuggets, instant mashed potato and beans, and he used the nuggets to scoop the beans and the mash up, and he said that was one of the best meals he'd ever had in his
So that was before
life.
Michael introduced him to a cup of beans.
Yeah, that was before then, yeah.
And used the sausages as breakwater. Yeah. Was it the sausages?
Yeah,
No,
it was
sorry, I'm getting this mixed up. Yeah, sorry. The sausages of breakwater was with the English
you know
breakfast.
what? We're in danger of stop getting Partridge wrong.
I know,
here,
sorry, I got it all wrong there. No, that's when he wanted... That's right. He didn't want the egg too close to the beans because he may want to mix them, but he wanted that to be his decision.
Breakwater.
Yeah. That was with Sonia, wasn't it? So Carol leaves him on Christmas Eve.
He spends Christmas Day on his own.
That's right. Not in his mock-up house, but in his real house, of course.
And and it was alluded to later in the book that he spent most of Christmas Day marching up and down his landing, listening to "Stop the Cavalry" by Jonah Louie in just his dressing gown. And I think he even had a cold pint of lager and a pork pie while sat in the bath. I think that was what Alan alluded to on Christmas Day.
Oh dear. So again, Phil, it just confirms that Christmas can be, while known as a generally happy time, quite tragic.
I don't know. That sounds quite fun, doesn't it?
What, pork pie?
Was it the pork pie or the beer that sold it to?
Bit of both. In the bath.
Yeah. The bath. It was the bath.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that sounds lovely.
Jonah Louie in the dressing gown.
Right, I'm loving these sound effects. We've never really used these on Talking Away before.
I can tell.
Yeah.
You've been dying to use these. I mean, you waiting for the Christmas special to roll them all out.
Exactly. There's so much coming up, though. There really is. There's a Partridge quiz, which is actually from Mastermind on the telly. So play along at home, get your pencils and pens out, and see how many you can get. And yes, Bill Carr. Now, we talked about this last time, didn't we, Phil? So Alan's talking in the Linton Travel Tavern in Series 1 with Michael, the Geordie, who threw a monkey in the sea because he'd eaten all his fags. And Alan said that was horrible, and then the conversation developed, and they talked about stealing a traffic cone, and Alan said, oh, it's outrageous. And Michael said, why did you just steal a traffic cone? So they did, didn't they? Now, can you remember what happened next? We'll listen to this in a second, but...
Yeah, so you know, our unfortunate Alan was well, it's worth pointing out, you know, Lynn was the designated driver.
She was,
because
yes.
they'd been drinking.
Was that the Rover 200?
Yeah, it would have been Series 1, wasn't it?
So they drag Lynn to the A34. Oh,
that sounds
that's a good,
about right.
Yeah. That's a good quiz question, isn't it?
That is a really good quiz question.
But it's an A road.
And none of us know the answer, do we?
No. We can edit that in, though, can't we? And be like, oh, we knew all along.
Tweet us, Facebook us, whatever. You know, when you listen to this, was it the A34?
But
or any B? It was a good B road.
Yeah, it's a nice road.
It is a nice road.
Unfortunately, they are stopped by the police. But from what I remember, a certain member of the party ran away.
So, let's get this straight. Your wife was driving.
Yes.
You felt a bit sick. Mm-hmm. So you asked her to pull over so you can get a traffic cone to be sick into.
Yes.
Why?
I didn't want to be sick on the road. The car's might skid on it.
There was another fella with you. Where's he gone?
He ran off over there. He got scared and ran away. He was in the army, and I think he saw people being blown up or like that. And
do you want to know what I think? I think you've got a very vivid imagination.
I wasn't trying to steal a traffic cone.
I'm not saying you're stealing it. I've not said that. Why are you saying that? Why are you saying steal?
Because to an innocent bystander, it may look like traffic cone theft. And I'm an innocent bystander, and to me it looks like traffic cone theft.
But it's not.
But it's not.
What's your name?
Bill.
Bill.
Carr. Bill Carr.
Bill Carr. Where do you live, Bill? What's your address?
King Road. King Road.
Is there a number?
10 King Road in Ipswich.
Where you going now?
I'm going to go home and just probably go straight to bed. Just keep out of trouble.
Good. We'll let this go. But I don't want to see you here again. All right?
OK, thank you. Right, go. Just drive away. Drive away normally. Stop panicking. Stop the engine. Don't. Still. I was technically in charge of a motor vehicle then. I could have been done for drink driving.
Right.
Brilliant.
You can actually hear Lynn crying in the background. Poor Lynn. He puts her through hell, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
He really does.
I think what's brilliant about this is that something I forgot to mention is that when Michael and Alan are talking about this in the hotel bar, you know, the way they describe this is Michael gets an imaginary traffic cone and just goes, "Stop telling me what to do." And that line, like, me and my friends who we watch Partridge and we quote it, that one has got to be one of the top quotes we do to each other, because it's just such a classic. And the whole thing about "stop telling me what to do," and then immediately Michael just runs as soon as there's police, and Alan just comes up with this ridiculous story. Like, it's just, it's for me, it's probably one of the top moments, if not the top moment for Partridge for me personally.
Isn't there a great bit in the hotel when he gets back and he's asking Michael to do his dinner for him, and he says
for breakfast the next morning.
That's it, for breakfast. He said, "I'd like some eggs, and I want you to lay them, you chicken."
I always do that now at home. Like if we're out with friends, I might go for chicken. I want you to lay them for me, you chicken.
just that whole 5-minute sequence is incredible. And the best bit for me about it as well is, I'm not in media, but the way, they're like, let's steal a traffic cone, and then it just jump cuts to the police. It's just there's nothing else. There's no pre-out. It's just that is just for me textbook.
In a similar way to how it cuts to the owl in the owl sanctuary, or the hawk, or whatever it was. Yeah. When he said, we could go shopping, Alan. We could go shopping. It's great, isn't it?
And I think that's a really good point, actually, that I think Partridge is incredibly good at those sharp cuts from one to the other.
Yeah, particularly in series 1, actually. Yeah, particularly.
We talked, didn't we, in the earlier episode we did back in November, about, it's great, isn't it, that, we just pretend it was a month. Well, it was a month ago, wasn't it?
But you've just ruined it now.
They're ruined.
Yeah, they're ruined.
But we were talking about some of the secondary characters, weren't they, and how they bring out different elements of Alan. So who we got? We've got Michael, the work Geordie. We've got Lynn. We've got, obviously, the BBC people like Tony Hayes. Yeah. What was the man from Acton called?
Mike Sampson.
Who... Now, the anecdote here was, I sell kitchens, but I don't actually cook myself, which was good. And then all the hotel staff as well. I'm not missing anybody. I'm trying to think. Dan's a fantastic man. He really is.
I mean, that for me, we've talked about best scenes. Obviously, pretty much any of the Dan part is, it's up there. Yeah. You've got Tex as well.
What's text?
See you later, Colin.
Colin. I mean, you work with a guy called Colin, don't you?
Do indeed. Yeah.
So do you do that with him, Colin?
No, I don't think I have, but it does go in my inner monologue. Often says it. Yeah.
You should. Yeah, Tex. And of course, that led to the whole drama with, have you taped over The Spy Who Loved Me with America's Strongest Man? Now you've got Norfolk's Maddest Man. That's another great line.
And it goes back to what we said at some point, a few minutes ago, a month ago, depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
It's got the great one-liners, Partridge. It has got the humour, which just gets funny, but it has great one-liners as well.
Absolutely.
Norfolk's Maddest Man is just incredible. And obviously that sequence, which would have been one of my other choices as well, it's just the entire Bond.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The Bond
clang.
Yeah. Nobody does it better.
There's an incredible YouTube video where someone has actually put the James Bond scenes as he's doing it. And honestly, it is textbook, because obviously they can't do that in the show.
That was textbook.
There you go.
Sonya's another character.
Sonia.
Because we don't really see Carol. The only thing we hear of Carol is in knowing me, knowing you. That bit we talked about in the previous show.
You hear her voice, and that's it, isn't it? That's the only bit you ever hear. You never see Carol at all.
And of course, two big characters in Alan's life: Fernando and Denise, his two kids. Yeah. We never see them.
Well, the irony with that is he always goes on for ages about Fernando. And even in the one of the books, there's a paragraph dedicated to Fernando, isn't there? And then there's a one line at the end, and I also have a daughter called Denise.
Yeah.
There's a running joke about Denise that she looks like him, isn't there? Well, I think the hotel staff spot pictures of her going, it's just that she looks a lot like you as well, isn't there? But that's as much as we know.
And again, it sort of comes back to that misogynistic, sexist side of Alan, doesn't it, really?
Fernando Partridge. Right there. There's that great scene, isn't it, when he phones Fernando up, doesn't he, and he's in bed with his girlfriend. He goes, you're in bed with a girl on a
Sunday day, isn't it?
Yeah. You're wasting your life.
You're wasting your life away. And he gets quite jealous of Sophie and Ben in the hotel as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that was funny when Lynn came in with that massive cardboard box. And Ben goes, I'll take that from you, Lynn. And Alan goes, no, I'll take it. He says, it's cutting into my hand. And Lynn just says, I'm so sorry. And he gives it back to her. And he lets her take it. Right, let's have another one of these intros because we love these.
Tom Spotley, when?
Who is Tom Spotley?
I don't know.
Nobody knows who he
No,
is.
he's just a great character, though. Now
I was reading something about this the other day on Google, and there were people debating it on Reddit or one of those forum things, and it said people saying, "Oh, I assumed it was some sort of celebrity, and he's just heard he's died," because it sounds like he's just been told someone's died, but we don't know who he is, do we?
I think it's just thrown in there, isn't it? It's like what's in Alan's drawer, isn't it?
Yes, true.
Even Coogan in the interview said there is no determined thing what's in Alan's drawer.
So even Coogan and Armando and all the people,
no, that's just the joke that we don't know.
We don't know what between them.
I mean, people are surmising is it Ladyboy stuff, from the Ladyboy episode and stuff, but no one actually has said definitively what's in Alan's drawer. He even jokes as that was there when I arrived.
I think you're right. Yeah. Actually, we were going to do this, weren't we, for this Christmas show, and we've forgotten we were going to actually have a Ladyboy here, the Ladyboy cocktail. So
I'd be careful where you're going with that. We weren't going to actually have a Ladyboy. We couldn't even get the Christmas jingle. How we can get a Ladyboy?
Yes. What was it? A Baileys, a lager, and a gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic, yeah.
Sounds quite horrible.
Because in Alan's world, isn't it? A lager is a man's drink, and a Baileys and gin and tonic are a woman's drink in Alan's world. Yeah.
No, because it's Simon Pegg who says that.
It is Simon
it's
Pegg.
Not Alan.
Right. Yeah.
Alan just makes it up.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's Simon Pegg. He's like, of course, because it's a man's drink, a lady's drink.
That's it. Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, if you think of all the people Alan's offended, pretty much, is there any guest who went on his programme ever who wasn't offended? Not many.
I think even the ones that weren't
shot.
Offended were bemused. Yeah.
Or shot to death.
Well, the only one I can think who I think Alan was offended was the Irish one.
Yes.
On this time, Alan Partridge, where he starts singing that incredibly offensive Irish song.
Yeah.
Oh, Alan does.
No, the
guy does.
Oh, the funny thing is,
is it Martin Brennan? The character's name,
is that,
isn't it?
oh,
Yeah, the one Coogan also plays. Yeah. Martin Brennan is a fantastic character.
I have seen that. Yes, he plays them both.
But Steve Coogan who's playing it, and and it's such an offensive Irish song, and they're all just staring.
I tell you a character we haven't talked about because we're thinking to the olden days, but if we fast forward now, Psychic Simon, of course.
Yeah.
Psychic Simon. I tell you what, my career's over. Absolutely ruined. He brings out a different side of Alan again, doesn't he? But he does get really angry with him at one time when he sets him up, remember?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Was this the one with the headphones, or was this a different one?
What was the joke? He says, no, the Inland Revenue. He said, Alan, the Inland Revenue's been on because Alan declared his income.
Oh, yeah.
And they pretended it had been on, and then he had to apologise and say, no, I'm not on a six-finger income at all, or something like that. And he got really angry with him.
Is that the one where there's either that one or it's the one with the headphones when he goes, you are nothing, and I am Alan Partridge.
It might be the same one, I can't remember.
There's one where Alan's headphones are sitting on the side, and Alan doesn't realise, so he can hear the voice coming out of it, and Alan thinks it's Psychic Simon.
That was hilarious.
Playing him up, doesn't it?
That was a different one again. Yeah. That one was funny.
But that was just Alan, leaving his headphones on, wasn't it?
And of course, another character we've forgotten is his arch nemesis, David Clifton.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And then in later episodes, Craig Kilty, a.k.a. the Monster, who came dressed up as, in Alan's words, the food stick to deliver his katsu curry.
Food stick.
So that's katsu curry, California rolls, and I listen to Orbital Digital. And he swears on air because he put it, Alan Partridge, you have been punked by Orbital Digital. Remember?
I do. Yeah.
And he's put it back on air and he swears at him.
Brilliant. Another character we forgot about is Glenn Ponder from Know Me Knowing You, with the never-ending band changing names, wasn't it? Glenn Ponder and Ferrari, and it was it Savoir Faire at some point?
The one I remember was Glenn Ponder and Chalet.
Yeah, Chalet, it changed every time, but even upset all of those. On the Paris episode, when they all went out without him, didn't they, and left, they changed the day and didn't tell him. So he even fell out with all of Glenn Ponder and the whole of the band, didn't he, as well?
And then he sacked him live on air.
Yeah, he did. He did sack him live on air.
So when it comes to sackings and Alan, he doesn't really do
Knowing me, Alan Partridge, sacking you, Glenn Ponder.
Yeah. Glenn gets slippy, Glenn gets fired.
When they found him, he still had the remote control in his hand.
That's one of my absolute favourites.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We've got the quiz coming up.
Keep it light.
Yeah, that was our motto coming into this show. Keep it light, guys. We've got the quiz coming up. I'm very excited about that. What are we all doing for Christmas then this year? Anything exciting on the cards? You should see their faces. The enthusiasm in this room is unbelievable.
Well, I know we're hosting family for the first time ever, and I think that's just going to be stressful.
Colin,
at least. Colin is one of the characters. Yeah, there's a Colin involved. There is a Colin involved.
I'm sure there'll be some knowing me, knowing you'll, Drake, in your house.
I'm sure there will, one way or another. Yeah,
keeping up with traditions. Yeah. Okay, let's listen to this. This is BBC Mastermind a few years ago. I found 2 clips online of people who had Partridge as their specialist subject, but this is, in my opinion, the better one. Maybe count on the fingers of your hand. Obviously, I've heard the clip, but I'll be honest and stick to the answers I got. I can't remember how many I got the first time, so I'm going to add them up as we go along and play along at home. Maybe get your pens and paper out and tick them off. But see how many you can get. Some of these are harder than others. Have a listen. John Humphrey's here hosting.
And your name is?
Andrew Burrows.
Occupation?
Subtitler.
And chosen subject?
Alan Partridge.
Alan Partridge in 2 minutes. What is the name of Alan's son who he named after an ABBA record?
Fernando.
Correct. Who was Alan's first ever guest on the television show Knowing Me, Knowing You?
Sue Lewis.
It was. Which video company produced Crash Bang Wallop What a Video with Alan Partridge?
Blue Barn.
No. Meteor Films. What was the title of Alan's autobiography which described his battles with weight and depression?
Bouncing Back.
It was. Alan appeared as a guest on which religious radio show on Talk Cambridge, hosted by Tessa McPherson?
Prayer Wave.
Yes, Alan's former teacher Frank Raphael is the head of which school that Alan once attended?
Sir William Dunwoody.
Yes, who played the disc jockey Dave Clifton, with whom Alan often shared banter on air at Radio Norwich?
Phil Cornwell.
Yes, to which country club was Alan denied access after pointing out lax security, eventually injuring himself severely, trying to climb over the fence?
Choristers.
Yes, in Series 1 of I'm Alan Partridge, what was the title of Episode 1 in which Alan has a shambolic meeting with Tony Hayers?
A Room with an Alan.
It was. From which racecourse did Alan present horse racing in the second episode of The Day Today?
Marple.
Correct. What is the name of Alan's production company where he once sacked all the staff rather than downsize his car?
Pear Tree Productions.
Yes. What was the name of Alan Partridge's guest on his radio show Knowing Me, Knowing You, who was voted Carnaby Street's Mr. Boutique of 1969?
Adam Wells.
Yes. Which polytechnic did Alan Partridge attend before embarking on a career in journalism?
East Anglia.
It was. On which BBC Radio 4 show did Alan Partridge get his first big break doing the sports reports?
On the Hour.
Yes. Which veteran rock star was interviewed by Alan Partridge during a Radio Norwich segment of 1999's Comic Relief?
Brian Ferry.
Yes. Which writer of the I'm Alan Partridge series played the combative interviewer Ray Woolard on the documentary Anglian Lives?
Peter Bainham.
Yes. Which old friend of Alan's replaced the late Tony Hayers as chief commissioning editor of the BBC?
Chris Feathers.
Yes. In the radio version of Knowing Me, Knowing You, from which American city did Alan co-present a show with American model Kendall Ball?
Las Vegas.
It was. What was the title of the I'm Alan Partridge episode where Alan planned to watch every James Bond film over a bank holiday weekend?
Never Say Alan Again.
It was indeed. You passed on none of those questions, Andrew Burrows, and you scored a total of 18 points.
Well, Andrew Burrows did well there, didn't it? I think I got 10 this time, but when I did, I think one was stuck in my head from when I clipped that up, so I think I got 9. How did you get on?
I got 11.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well done.
Bloody, I got 5.
Did you?
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Did you know the episode names, Drake?
Yeah, admittedly, I've watched some of them more recently.
Yeah, I struggled on those ones. I got Meteor was a good one I got,
Yeah,
which
that's
he
a good
got
one.
wrong, actually. But yeah, he did well, didn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say, he was incredible.
Yeah. Well, actually, because the other one that's online has got some of the newer stuff in, which I did really badly on, because I've got the older stuff in my head. No, but he did really well, didn't he? That was Andrew Burrows there on Mastermind a few years ago. But yeah, well done there. If you got, I'd say 10 or anything over, you did pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting closer and closer to Christmas, so we're not going to drag this show out for too long, though. But, yeah, Partridge. I'm sure we'll do more Partridge shows, won't we, in the future? And the great thing is, Mandrew, you said this in the first show, he just gives and gives and gives, doesn't he?
There's always something new, and anything that's topical currently going on, you can apply Partridge to it straight away.
Do you think Coogan nowadays is using Alan even more as a political vehicle, though, to express his own opinions, bearing in mind there are people being cancelled, it's all very PC. It feels to me like he's using Alan much more than he even used to do.
I've seen 2 interviews with Coogan more recently.
Yeah.
Or one might have been a radio one might have been on TV. One, he openly admits that Alan, even the voice of Alan, is now becoming closer and closer to himself
That's
closer
true,
to
actually.
Steve Coogan now than it was the character of Alan Partridge. He said that himself in an interview.
Right.
I think that was one on about the day-to-day, a reunion for the day-to-day, I think. Or on the hour, one of the two. And then there was one more recently, it might even been a chat show like Jonathan Ross, where he did even mention that he uses Alan a bit as a vehicle because of cancel culture. And there is probably less he can get away with than he probably could in the 90s, for whatever, rightly or wrongly. But he probably does. He probably has changed slightly as a character. As the times have moved on, he's got to keep Alan relevant as well, haven't you? If you're going to keep Alan going, he's got to stay relevant to the times Alan's in, hasn't he?
You follow a lot of stand-up very closely in this country in particular. How are they dealing with this now? I think you said this in the first show. Comedy should be quite risque, shouldn't it? But it must be so... This is like an absolute minefield.
I suppose all art should be risque in its nature. If you think maybe like punk, when punks and all subcultures come about, they should be risque by nature.
Yeah.
I don't know where the quote comes from, but surely all good art should shock. But I think the live scene hasn't changed rapidly. That just depends on what comedians are around at the time. I think
Because it's not recorded, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, quite possibly. But then again, I suppose everyone can be a journalist now in terms of the day and age of smartphones, although rules are stricter on filming stuff in live shows. But maybe not working in TV, the rules maybe are stricter on TV. But Partridge, I think, to keep it to Partridge, I think he's just had to be relevant to move with the times. I don't think that's necessarily a cancel culture thing. You can't do the same 90s stuff in 2022, can you really, probably realistically?
And I suppose it's true to say as well, Phil, that as we said in the first show, there is a new audience now who's actually not seen a lot of the original Partridge stuff. And, they're learning Alan from his new stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, it would be really interesting to meet someone who has kind of gone back to I'm Alan Partridge, maybe like a younger audience, and see what they think of it.
Yeah, it would actually.
Because, it does... I don't think it's dated at all, but it does feel quite 90s in terms of its kind of almost outlook and on things.
Do you think for us there's a nostalgia?
Do you know what? You've literally, you've just taken the words out of my mouth, because I was just going to say that. Because when we look back, you think of the 90s, Gladiators, Noel's House Party, all the music, Mr. Blobby, Partridge, although we didn't really watch Partridge when it came out at the time, because I was 7 and you were 8, 9, whatever. Yes, I think there probably is, isn't there? I think there probably is.
He's mentioning references that are reference points for when we were young and growing up, isn't it? So maybe
Jet from Gladiators.
Jet from Gladiators, yeah.
It's not an all-night rave.
Jet!
Talking about Partridge and 90s, there's instantly an arch nemesis of Alan's that's now sprung into my head. Can you guess who it is?
Hang on. An arch nemesis
of Alan's.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
I'm going to say one word. Edmund.
Yeah, I thought that's who it was. Yeah, it's funny because when we went to see him live in 2008 in Birmingham at the NIA, and he talked about Deal or No Deal, or maybe it was in the programme actually for that show, and he described it as cutting edge television. But in his book, is it I Partridge, I think, and he does a chapter called Edmonds.
Oh, was it in Nomad? I can't remember.
It in Nomad?
It might be one of the two. I can't remember which.
And the audiobook's funny as well.
Yeah.
But he doesn't like Edmonds. Although Partridge, surely Edmonds is one of the people he's based him on, not just Richard Madeley. But it's Edmonds.
Yeah, sure.
It's all that generation.
A bit of Tony Blackburn in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Terry Wogan. I think there's a bit of Terry Wogan in there as well. But he's very Madeley-esque, isn't he?
Smashy and Nicey was funny, wasn't it? Do you remember that? With the DJs. It was Enfield
and Whitehouse.
Whitehouse, yeah. But they actually said it kind of ended the careers of a lot of those broadcasters.
Parody of themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Just before we go, because we nearly hit the half-hour mark, Christmas specials, favourite Christmas specials of different comedies? I have to say, I've been struggling here. Mandry, I think you've got them clear in your mind.
There's probably, you've got hundreds of Only Fools and Horses ones.
Yeah,
of
course.
Knowing Me, Knowing You will be a classic one. If anyone's Greg Davies fans, you've got 2 Christmas specials there. You've got the one where Rick Mayall's still in it, where they do the school production of the Nativity. I think it's set in space, I think, as well. So you can imagine with Rick Mayall and Greg Davies, it ends in complete disaster. There's a second Christmas special when Rick Mayall's sadly no longer in, but that's another one. That's very, very good as well. Father Ted Christmas special when they get lost in the lingerie section.
That was probably my choice, to be honest, Father Ted, because, it's incredible, that episode.
That was funny, that was, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was fun.
Even the music.
Yeah. It's just, you're thinking of the music straight away, aren't you?
I could go on, but I won't. Well, there we are. Yeah, so we'll see what else. What else would we like to see Partridge? Is there anything in particular we'd like to see him doing? Because I mean, he just keeps bouncing back, doesn't he? With all like the Tesco scene. That's worth mentioning.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
that was good.
We talked about Scissors Isle before, didn't we? And we haven't really had time to mention it, but I think Scissors Isle is a kind of standalone episode, but I think it's very good. Like,
do you mean in our month-long lunch since the last episode we talked about Scissors Isle? Yeah.
It was a very long lunch.
The opening of Scissors Isle is brilliant, isn't it? When he does his monologue about Manchester.
About Manchester.
It's the bit in there that gets me every time when he goes, factory work, as well as his factory work's a wonderful thing that everybody in Manchester loved doing.
It's funny as well, he's gone back to his TV sort of persona now, hasn't he? We're not seeing... Although he's kind of mixed them a bit, because Mid-Morning Matters, and this time, you don't just get the show, but he shows us the bits in between as well, doesn't he?
I think very quickly, I think what's interesting is that, are we having a resurgence of these type of comedians? Because obviously we talked briefly about Peter Kay, look at how many shows is he doing now?
Yeah, he's doing basically residency in every city, more or less.
And it all set out with
sold out,
3 minutes.
We were getting tickets and for my parents as a present, and honestly, I've never known difficulty getting tickets like that.
Yeah.
And did you get them?
Yeah, but only after a lot of refreshing, to say the least. I've never known anything like it. I got bumped out the queue and I rejoined, and it was 386,000 just for one of the shows. And I'm like, I've never known anything like it.
That's pretty much broke the internet when they went on sale that morning, didn't they? Yeah,
it's wild, and it makes you think, because, you obviously don't want to get too deep into this as well, but obviously post-pandemic, do people want a bit more lightheartedness? Obviously...
Yeah.
Stuff like Peter Kay, Partridge, it is light-hearted in nature, and maybe that's kind of what we need at the moment.
Maybe again a nostalgia, thinking about happier times, like these chaotic times at the moment. Maybe it's something in there as well.
I think we do need some basic silly fun sometimes, though, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Without going into too much detail and getting into some sort of controversy here, but I think with a lot of this cancel culture going on, it's taking a lot of the fun out of life, because everybody's afraid that they're going to upset somebody, or upset an organisation, or upset something somewhere. And it just seems like everyone's on eggshells, walking on eggshells all the time. It's true. It's true.
I think there's a balance there.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
but do people get offended more easily these days than they used to? Across,
I don't think me and Phil can answer for every person in the British Isle. I don't think.
In your opinions,
speaking for everybody, no, I'm not. I think
speaking on behalf of the nation,
it's worth pointing out that we're more connected as ever as people. Like as I think you mentioned it before. Everyone has a phone. You can quite easily find any opinion out there, and I think that obviously information is much more open now. So there's obviously a lot more opinions out there, and it's a difficult balance. There's
a balance to be had, isn't there? It's you shouldn't be making fun of people for their just at somebody's expense for a cheap laugh, as it were. But at the same time, people do want light entertainment. They do want a bit of escapism.
It isn't exactly, or almost like the soap operas or watching sport. It is an escape, isn't it? And since the pandemic, we have agreed, haven't we, that balance is the word. Everything needs to be balanced.
I think the tricky thing is none of us three in this room can decide where the line in the sand lies. Can we? It's not for us to.
I think you have to just do. I think you have to just do what's best for you and those around you, without, in a fair way, don't you? Without taking advantage of anybody. I would say. Anyway, right. Well, Christmas crackers out. Merry Christmas, everyone. Christmas crackers out. Mince pies at the ready. Should we have a bit more Roy Wood just before we go?
Right. That's that then. That's that done.
That's that then, and I'm sure we'll be back. Let us know what you think of the show. Get in touch with us online if you can. Do you want more Partridge stuff? I'm sure there's more comedy we can talk about as well, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
But for now, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Andrew Cairns, Phil Lennon, Greg Haynes here. This has been Talking Away, the Christmas special, with help, of course, of our favourite character, Alan Partridge. Merry Christmas, everybody.